something bad about people who aren't here.
So we're going to talk about depreciation today. These 4 factors go into making our estimates for depreciation: the cost, the residual value, the depreciable cost, and the estimated useful life of the asset. When we depreciate an asset, every time we do record depreciation, the journal entry will be the exact same journal entry. The method of computing the depreciation is what will change. So whenever you record the adjusting entry for depreciation, you're always going to debit depreciation expense and credit the accumulated depreciation for that particular asset. Now we'll talk about the 3 different types of depreciation approaches that we could use. And again, similar to when we were talking about our inventory methods, businesses will use different approaches depending upon what the needs are of their business. The one thing they can't do is just change from year to year to year. Once they have an approach, they're going to, from a consistency standpoint, stick with it. So first, let's talk about the straight line method. Straight line method depreciates the cost of the asset and spreads it evenly over the estimated useful life of that asset. It assumes, not necessarily absolutely true, but the assumption is that the depreciation only depends upon the passage of time. And computing the depreciation is based on, the estimate of what the asset's useful life will be. It assumes that the depreciation amount is the same each year, so therefore depreciation accumulates uniformly over the years, and the carrying value of the asset decreases uniformly over the years. What you need to do is pay attention to partial years. What do I mean by that? So if you have an asset, so you have to pay attention to dates that the asset is placed in service. So if I place an asset in service in June, am I going to depreciate 12 months of depreciation?
No, that's silly.
No, because I'm only going to be placing it in service for 6 months. So I'm going to make sure, we need to make sure that we're only depreciating assets for the amount of time that it's in service for that year. Same thing when we go to sell it. We can't take a full year of depreciation when we sell something if we sell it partway through the year. Pardon me. So a straight line depreciation schedule looks much like this. If you notice, the cost is always the cost. It's always going to stay the same. What you'll notice is the annual depreciation is the same, and it's accumulating each year based on that annual amount adding up. So if our annual depreciation is $3,600, at the end of the first year, we'll depreciate that asset by $3,600, and therefore the carrying value will go down from $20,000. It will decrease by $3,600. So the book value or carrying value is going to be $16,400. The next year, at the end of the year, and pay attention, this is the end of the year, not the beginning. That's very important. The end of the year, they'll depreciate it another $3,600. So what will that journal entry look like for that? What would I debit? What would I credit?
You would debit your depreciation value.
Depreciation expense, and I'm going to credit what?
You would credit.
No? Go back to the previous pages of notes. Accumulated depreciation. So remember I just said that to you on the previous slide. Can you guys all close your laptops, please? On the previous slide, I said to you, every time you do the adjusting entry for depreciation, the journal entry will look the same. You will debit depreciation expense and you will credit accumulated depreciation. So each year you're going to debit depreciation expense for $3,600, and you're going to credit the accumulated depreciation for $3,600. And when you would look at the balance in that account, if you were to look at the end of the year, that's what the balance is going to be in the second year, the balance in the third year, the balance in the fourth year, and so on and so forth. Okay? Because this is a contra asset account. This account is a temporary account like any other expense account. Somebody had their hands up. Who had their hand up? Yes, Howard.
Doesn't the value of the building sometimes increase?
Pardon me?
Doesn't the value of the building sometimes increase?
Yes, it does. The market value of the building sometimes increases, but not the cost. The cost never increases. The cost is always the cost. It's always the cost. And it's still, regardless of whether the market value is going up or down, the book value is going to go down because we're going to depreciate that asset over time to show that the asset is being used in the support of our business. So the book value or carrying value is going to go down independent of the market value. Completely independent. Would you ever realize if you keep owning that asset, that building, do you ever reap the benefit of the market value of that building?
Not
Unless you sell it.
You only reap the benefit if you sell it. Right.
There's
So
the rebound.
the market value is all wonderful and good, but it doesn't do you any real benefit unless you sell it.
No.
So that's why you don't ever record anything relating to market value, because you don't realize the benefit of a market value unless you sell it. So if you're holding on to it, there's no benefit to you as a business. The only benefit you have is in continuing to use it. Okay, so let's do a problem. We're going to do SE2, I think. No, my bad. SE6. Thank you.
no grant. I will love that.
Correct.
Bob, you're gonna miss me so much when you're in college.
All right, so we have SE6. SE6, we have Doors Fitness Center purchased a new step machine for $8,250. The apparatus is expected to last for 4 years and have a residual value of $750. What will the depreciation expense for each year be under the straight line method? So, what do we know? We know that
4 years.
the asset's value or cost is $8,250. We know that it has a residual value of $750.
Okay, so we on here, this is
$430.
Bob,
So
pause page
if
2.
if we have a residual value, how does that factor into the analysis here?